Chart's kind of a case study in culture. There are some organizations out there, if they kind of took a look at Chart and really looked at how they've maintained this type of a culture all this time, it really does go back to the core values: learning, sharing, growing, and caring. When you communicate what that means, and then you start making decisions around those core values, you really start to create a culture, but also it enables you to maintain that culture regardless of who's president, who's on the board, who's volunteering, who the members are. It is a pretty cool case study around that. I was actually in operations for many years as a general manager, and I made a decision that I wanted to get into learning and development. There was an opportunity at the corporate office for Houlihan's as the manager of management development. So I was really fortunate to interview, and they offered me the job, and I was able to really make a great career transition and move to Kansas City. One of the first things my new boss said to me when I moved to Kansas City and started working, she says, "You have to join Chart." I'm like, okay, my boss tells me I have to do this. I'm going to do this. She says, the first thing you have to do is go to the hospitality suite. And I said, I'm thinking to myself, my boss is telling me to go to this conference and go to the hospitality suite first. So I said, this must be pretty good. I was working for an organization for the majority of my active years at Chart that it had a lot of men in leadership positions, and I would find myself many times being one of a few women in the room. And, 30 years ago, as unfortunately probably there aren't still today, there are challenges to that. And I think that having the opportunity to gain some confidence at Chart as a leader helped me immensely with my leadership skills and my confidence back at my job. I was learning and growing myself. This was in many ways an opportunity to kind of drink from the fire hose and then take something back with me and look really great at my organization. It was almost like a master's class anytime you went to one of these conferences. One of the other things that really impressed me from Chart is that people were really willing to share and to help. So if you had a question, somebody had an answer, or somebody had a form, or somebody had a process, or somebody had a recommendation, and everybody was willing to share. When you go to conferences like this, it's very rare. It's usually people are nervous about sharing quote unquote confidential information. They become really kind of your team away from the team you've got at work that you can go to very easily, and people feel comfortable. You don't feel like there's a question you can't ask. They really have created an environment where you can be yourself, you can be vulnerable, you can ask a lot of really great questions, and you can get the help you need. There's another saying, I can do that. Usually when somebody in Chart says, hey, we need help with this for the conference, or would you volunteer to do this? There's many people that raise their hand and say, hey, I can do that. So there's kind of this two sides of the coin. There's the sharing piece where you take from it, but there's also the other side of sharing where you're like, yeah, I can give you my time. Even if it's not my expertise, I can do that. Then I got involved. I volunteered. I started as facilities director, and then I kind of got involved in some of the different positions for the conferences. And then I ran for the board and was fortunate enough to become president-elect and then also president. I would say, one, you should join. You should be a member. And two, when it's appropriate, when you can, I think you should volunteer and get involved, because, the more involved you get more than you have to put in. That's always the case. One of my most cherished memories was I was given the Spirit of Chart Award many years ago, but it's probably one of the awards that I cherish the most. It's given to a Chart member who has demonstrated those 4 values and has given back to the organization. For an organization that meant so much, but also gave so much to me, for them to do that for me was really, really wonderful. It's right over here. All of you can see it. That's it right there.